This has been a pretty good year for thrash metal bands releasing new material. Megadeth released an awesome album earlier this year. Anthrax released a pretty good one, although I would argue not really thrashy enough, but still pretty good album. Then we had, actually I believe this one came before Death Angel, but we had Flotsam and Jetsam and Death Angel both release albums within a week of each other. I remember last year feeling a serious lack of thrash, so that has been pretty cool, having a bunch of these bands come out with music all at the same time. Now, I'm not the biggest Flotsam and Jetsam fan, not that I dislike them, I actually do really like them. It's just I haven't had time to really give each one of their albums the proper listen that they deserve. I've listened to The Cold quite a bit, and Ugly Noise and Doomsday for the Deceiver the most. And those are pretty good albums, easily my favorite ones, just because, again, I haven't had time to really go back and listen to the other ones. That, and I think The Cold and Doomsday would probably be my two favorites, even if I am able to go back and listen to the other ones a lot more. I've heard them, they're pretty good, it's just I haven't had time to really delve into them, and I do like songs on each of those albums. So I say all that just to say that coming into this review, I'm not a fanboy. I am certainly not what one would call a true fan. I like them, but I guess you could kind of call me a fan, but not really. I'm not really sure where you would define my fan status. But either way, I approach this album with an open mind. So the first thing I noticed about this album is how good it sounds. You can actually hear the bass for starters. The drums sound good. Generally have some good beats going there. The guitars sound fantastic, and the vocalist has a really nice voice still. After all this time, he still sounds quite good. I assume he probably has lost some range over the years, but we're now in decade number 4 of this band, which is pretty ridiculous and kind of awesome. Although I don't think they were around for the full portion of the 80s. I think they were just like the second half of the 80s. So we might be finishing up decade number 3 for him. But either way, he still has a nice voice and sounds pretty solid. And the band members all do play quite well on here. There's not a whole lot that's really spectacular, but there's nothing bad either. And there are some guitar riffs and some drum beats and even a few bass lines that I do really like. And even a couple solos that are pretty good. So overall, everybody does their job quite well. All that being said, I can't say I love the album. Shocker, right? If you see a lot of my reviews, you'll find that a lot of my opinions on albums that come out these days are meh. I do like this album a lot better than I did Death Angel's album, and probably more than a few other albums I reviewed that come out this year. It's not bad, but to me, there just aren't really that many standout tracks. There aren't any bad tracks on here, so that's always a good thing. Flotsam and Jetsam fans probably already heard this album, but if you haven't, you're probably going to like it. If you like every album they've done, then there's no reason you won't like this one. It's in a good thrashy style. I do really like the style on this album. Like I said, there are plenty of good riffs going on here, and everybody sounds fantastic. It's just there aren't really a whole lot of standout tracks. And some of the lyrics kind of get in the way of this album a little bit too. Not in the sense that they're necessarily bad lyrics, just the way they do them in certain moments that I'll get into now as I do the track by track review. The album opens with 7 Seals, and this song almost feels like wasted potential, but not quite. It's still the second best song in my opinion on the album. I would say that it's pushing my favorite song a little bit more, if not for this particular issue. Like I mentioned the lyrics, there is a part of this song where the vocal melodies themselves are just fine, but he keeps saying 7 something something 7, and he repeats it over and over again. Like, I know there's like 7 balls of wrath is one of them. There are 3 things where he says 7 something, then he'll repeat it, then he'll say 7 balls of wrath, 7 balls of wrath, 7 whatever the third one is, he'll repeat that, and then 7 seals remain, which that last part is pretty good. The melodies on this section are fine, but my god, the lyrics are so repetitive. If they changed it up a little bit, it would have helped a lot. But it just gets really annoying hearing that same part over and over and over again. It would have been better if they'd just taken the 3 lines they had and repeated them, like 7, whatever the first one was, and then instead of repeating it, just go into the 7 balls of wrath, then do the 3rd line, and then 7 seals remain. That would have been a lot more concise, and even if they wanted to repeat it again, at least there'd be some variation on that. But this is the one part of the song that I don't like. Like I said, the melody itself is just fine. No issue with that at all, but that lyrically just... It grinds my gears a little bit. The rest of the song is awesome. Like I said before with the album, everybody musically and vocally sounds great on this song especially. There are a number of guitar riffs. I like the opening riff a lot. It's got a nice thrashy pacing. And I don't know if the 7 part is supposed to be the chorus or there's a section that follows it, which I really like. That kind of pulls it all together. And that one I kind of feel like is the chorus. But I guess you could say they're both the chorus, I guess. I don't know. I think it complements that part really well in terms of the melodies and everything. I just really wish that 7 part wasn't repeated over and over again the way it was. They could have done that one better. And that kind of leads me to another issue I have on this album, which is there are moments, and that 7 part is one of them, that just feel a bit unfinished. Like they didn't put enough work into them. And this is still a pretty good song. I'd give that song a solid 7.5, maybe, 7.5 out of 10. I wanted to say 8, but honestly, if they had just varied up those lyrics in the 7 part, then I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's otherwise a really awesome song. I won't be rating every one of these songs specifically, but I did want to kind of convey my feelings on this. Life is a Mess is next, and it starts off with some odd pacing. I don't really know how you call it, as they kind of build up into the song. The verses end up being some of the faster moments on the album. They're really fast and thrashy. There are some weird time changes and just kind of some weird choices as they kind of build to the chorus. They'll have their fast-paced verse and it'll kind of go into a slower but still up-tempo, just slower compared to the verse section, and then it'll build up again, and then it'll, I say slow back down, but again, keep in mind, still up-tempo for the chorus. The chorus is pretty nice, and the main verses are pretty good. But I feel like there's too much in between. I think they just needed one thing in between there to kind of build towards the chorus, and this song would have been significantly better. They probably could have used a little bit more editing, and this is another one of the songs that just feels a little rushed and a little unfinished. It's still a pretty decent track, though. Taser is next, and this song was a nice surprise. I didn't really feel too much for it right off the bat. You'll notice most of these songs I don't particularly love. Some of them I find okay, and some of them I can't really say I dislike any of these. But this song kind of fell into that category at first, but it's really kind of grown on me a lot. It's a nice fast-paced thrasher. There's not a whole lot special to say about it. The chorus is pretty decent, kind of grew on me a little bit more. I actually have the song stuck in my head right now, which is nice. And one thing I can say about this album is I definitely find these songs more memorable than I do the Death Angel songs on that new one. And I'm not trying to slam Death Angel or anything like that. It's just, I definitely find that there's a lot more melody in this album, and I really like that. Iron Maiden is the next song, and I think this was made to be kind of a tribute to Iron Maiden. It definitely has some moments where it definitely sounds like there's Iron Maiden influences. I wouldn't really say the melodies sound like it, although I don't know if the singer's trying to do a Bruce Dickinson impersonation. But it sounds pretty awesome, actually. It's really cool to hear him try to do something a little bit different with his voice. And even with the guitars, they try to do a little bit more, I guess, Maiden-style playing. And it gives the album something a little different. Not that I feel like it's well, maybe it is kind of lacking in some variety, but that wasn't really an issue for me with this album. But this one does kind of give a new little wrinkle into the album. And it's obviously a tribute to Iron Maiden, so people can't really bitch, oh, it sounds too much like Iron Maiden. Well, yeah, because they're tributing the band. And this is probably, no, I'm just going to go say it's definitely the catchiest song I've heard all year. It's a super catchy chorus and fun, and I mean, I love a catchy chorus, and this song delivers. I can't say that it tops Anthrax's You Gotta Believe for my favorite song of the year, but this is probably number 2, and probably, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it's definitely my second favorite song of the year so far. I could see a song topping this one. I don't see anything topping the Anthrax song for me, but I could see something maybe topping that. I hope something tops both of those songs as far as my favorite song of the year. But this one I really like. It's super up-tempo. It's a lot more melodic and not as heavy, but it's still a very nice, catchy, fun song, and I can see why. I believe it was a single. I think there's a music video for it. Very nice song. Verge of Tragedy is next, and this one mixes some slower sections with some faster sections. The faster sections have a really nice guitar riff and really nice pacing. The slow sections aren't bad either, but the faster ones really stand out more for me. This one is a pretty decent track as well. It was one I didn't think I was going to like. I like the singing parts with the vocals. That probably didn't make any sense, but the part of the vocals where he's singing in the chorus, but I feel like it needed some better vocals during the talking sections of it. Like, I kind of see what they're going for. It didn't really work for me. Maybe it's just that the talking part was a little too quiet. I'm not really sure, but that section could have been a little bit better. So it kind of made the chorus a little bit disappointing, but not as disappointing as quite a few of the choruses on this album. Creeper is next, and the intro is pretty good. It's got some ambient stuff in the background before you get like a drum and bass intro. It's not bad, but the rest of the song doesn't really do a whole lot for me. The pacing just feels a bit off. There's a faster paced, groovier section, which is actually kind of cool in the intro, but once the actual verses start, I don't know, just the pacing just feels off, and I couldn't really get into the song. And the chorus was a little slower, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the melody during that was okay, but it just sounds like another anti-religion song. Not that there aren't plenty of those out there, but it's just one of those things that I'm kind of tired of that lyrical theme. I could go 10 years without hearing that. I mean, we all get it. Religion can be bad. I don't really see where we need to cover that theme anymore, but bands will do it because, well, apparently they like doing that. I don't know. It's just not a particular song that I enjoy. In fact, it's definitely my least favorite song on the album. It's still not terrible by any means, but this one's just not one that I really enjoy. LOTD, I think I'm reading that right, is next. This is another fast-paced thrasher. There's not really a whole lot special about it, but it's a pretty good song. I'm actually remembering it now, which is a nice change from the Death Angel album. I'm really not trying to bitch about Death Angel on this review. I just keep coming back to it because they're two thrash metal bands that released albums within a week of each other. So I keep coming back to that. Plus, that was the last album I reviewed. There's also a section with a nice bass line and kind of a groovy little section. It's very short-lived, but kind of nice before it gets to the solo. It's actually a pretty good song. I'm gonna go ahead and change my mind on that one. It's actually pretty good. I do enjoy it. The Incantation Monkey Wrench is next, and no, it's not the Foo Fighters Monkey Wrench. I don't know why this wasn't one track. The intro part, which transitions into the main song, is pretty cool. It's an acoustic section with electric leads playing over it. And there's a nice effect on the lead guitar on here as well. It sounds really awesome, and like I said, transitions really well into Monkey Wrench. I don't know why this wasn't the same track. I've heard a lot worse intros added to songs that were part of the same track as the actual song. The opening track from Hope and Sorrow by Seven Dust comes to mind, which had a shitty intro. Actually, the opening track for Iron Maiden's Final Frontier, which might have been called Final Frontier, I can't remember. That one's even worse, actually, come to think of it. So there are songs. Iced Earth's opening track from Plagues of Babylon also comes into mind, although, yeah. Well, anyways, those are some songs I can think of which had long intros that were part of the same track that didn't really work. But I guess my thing is, with iTunes, I can chop off bits of songs that I don't like anyway. So I would have rather have had this song on the same track, especially given MP3s and everything. And you copy the song to MP3. Sometimes the transition doesn't work as well as it should. But still, the intro is really, really cool. Acoustic, lead electric. The effect on the lead guitar section kind of reminds me a bit of This Love. I had to think, I almost said Walk, and it wasn't Walk. This Love by Pantera. Same album, wrong song. This intro kind of reminds me of the end of that song a little bit. Except it's acoustic and not clean electric. But, you know, whatever. And it transitions really nicely into Monkey Wrench, which has a really nice opening riff, or a really nice, well, pretty much just really nice guitar riffs going on throughout this song. There are some really nice riffs, as I repeat myself. There are also some really good drumming in this song. I like the double bass that's going on in the intro. The verses are really good. The melodies by the vocalist are very solid. I really like the verses a lot. The chorus goes back to that 7 style that I mentioned in Seven Seals, where it says something, something forcing me down, and then repeats it over and over again. But there's not that cool section that complements it that comes after it like in Seven Seals. Again, just repeated lyrics that just kind of get on my nerves a little bit. Still, I do like this song. There's so much going on that I like about this song that I can kind of ignore it. But it is something that really should have been fixed. Overall, still a decent track. Time to Go is next, and it's another fast-paced, thrashy song. There's not really a whole lot special about this song, but it's pretty cool. Smoking Gun is yet another fast-paced, thrashing song, and this one, again, there's nothing really special to it. It's not bad, but I kind of like this one a little less than I do most of the songs on this album. It's probably actually my second least favorite song. It's not bad. Like I said, it's in kind of the same style as a lot of the songs on here, even its predecessor. But it just doesn't really do a whole lot for me. Forbidden Territories is last, and I honestly just can't remember the song. I remember this one having a more epic feel to it. I think they were trying to do a little bit more with this song. I know there are some nice pacing to it, and there's some good guitar riffs and some good melodies, but this song just doesn't stick with me very much, and this is another one I don't particularly love all that much. Although I do appreciate them trying to make a song a little bit more epic. But this one just didn't really stick with me. Maybe with repeated listens it will, but for now it just doesn't really work all that well for me. So in the end, we are treated to a very nice sounding modern thrash metal album that's actually pretty melodic while still being fast and heavy. I think they do a very nice job of balancing melody with heavy. I think there are a few flaws, as I've discussed, but overall, Flotsam and Jetsam fans are going to like this album if they haven't heard it already. If you like thrash metal and have not heard this band before, then you might try giving this album a shot. I would actually recommend Doomsday for the Deceiver and The Cold if you haven't heard this band before. Those are my two favorites. If you don't like this band, this album is likely not going to change your mind. So I'm going to go ahead and give this album a 6 out of 10. There are 3 songs that I do really like and a few others that are decent. This album definitely musically has some really solid moments to it. I like that this is a thrash metal album with melody, and they balance heavy and melodic very well on here. I just feel like there are some parts that felt a bit unfinished that I would like to have had them clean up a little bit more, and especially in the moments in Seven Seals and Monkey Wrench, I really feel like they should have put more lyrical variety in that section, or just rotated the particular lines they use so that it's not so repetitive. You don't say the same thing over and over again. Still a decent album, but it's pretty flawed, and so I can't really give it more than a passing grade.